Failure, Olivia. Those words cut through the air like a blade, slicing away the last thread of belonging I had ever clung to. It wasn't just what he said, but where he said it. In the glossy, wood-paneled conference room of Winslow Industries, under fluorescent lights and in front of every member of my family, my father, Kenneth Winslow, CEO and patriarch, tore me down without hesitation. Before we begin, drop a comment and tell us where are you from and from which city you're watching our videos? And after watching the whole video, don't forget to tell us what would you do in this situation? Be honest, tell me in the comments below. We read every comment. Let's begin. I sat at the long, glass table, sandwiched between uncles and cousins in sleek suits. Most of them had done nothing but ride the coattails of my father's empire. I had earned my place. I'd worked the ground-level shifts, closed deals, tripled a product line's value, but none of it mattered. Not today. Dad, just listen to the Q4 numbers. The projections. He raised his hand sharply. Don't call me Dad in here. This is business. And as of today, you're no longer part of it. Silence followed. Then laughter. Low and smug at first, like wolves sniffing blood. My cousin Darren snorted. Told you she wasn't built for this. Even my older brother Chase leaned back with a satisfied smirk. I guess some people just can't handle the real pressure. I looked around at their faces, my family, and in that moment, I realized they never saw me as one of them. I wasn't the golden child. I wasn't the heir. I was just the daughter. The backup. The she-tried story they'd all laugh about after dinners. So I stood up, tucked in my chair, and said nothing. No tears. No protests. Just a smile. A slow, quiet smile that made the room uncomfortable for one breathless second. Then I walked out. It wasn't just the company I walked away from. It was my entire identity. But they had no idea that the real story was just beginning. I drove through the city that night with the windows down, wind rushing through my hair, but my chest felt tight, like something massive was pressing against it. I pulled over at a gas station just outside of Westport, where no one would recognize me. I stared at my reflection in the rearview mirror. Olivia Winslow, 29, Harvard MBA, youngest division lead in company history, now jobless, betrayed, and burned publicly by her own family. I could have broken down. Instead, I made a call. Hey, it's me, I said. A pause. Then a cautious voice. Liv, I haven't heard from you in 3 years. I know, I said, but I have a proposal. And this time, you're going to want in. The voice on the other end was Eli Navarro, my ex-business partner, the one I had been forced to walk away from because my family deemed him too unstable to trust. Back then, I listened. I sacrificed my own startup dream because I thought I'd have a legacy waiting at Winslow Industries. Now I had nothing to lose and everything to prove. We met in a diner off I-84 the next morning. Eli looked rough around the edges, longer hair, cracked phone screen, hands calloused. But his mind? Still brilliant. You're serious? He asked, flipping through the folder I handed him. You're going after them? I leaned forward. No. I'm building something better. And in 10 days, they'll come crawling. That same day, I wired everything I had into the LLC we'd formed 3 years ago and left dormant, Nova Stride. I burned through every contact I had, leveraged every skill, and pulled favors I swore I'd never call in. Eli brought in our old software engineer, Priya. I contacted Deshawn, a logistics genius who once streamlined an entire supply chain with a single spreadsheet. The idea? A lean, lightning-fast distribution company using AI-driven inventory forecasting, designed to replace outdated dinosaurs like Winslow Industries. I worked 20 hours a day, slept on Eli's couch, ate whatever was fast and cheap. But I wasn't tired. I was on fire. 10 days later, Winslow Industries declared a liquidity crisis. Their largest vendor pulled out. Their supply chain collapsed. And my phone rang. Kenneth Winslow. My father. I stared at the name, feeling my stomach twist. I answered calmly. Olivia, he said. No hello. No apology. Just desperation. We need you back. The board. I know, I said. He went quiet. What do you mean, you know? I mean your warehouses are backed up. Your freight costs are bleeding your bottom line. Your systems are outdated. And your entire West Coast operation? It's already signed with me. Another silence. You started a competitor? He said finally, voice shaking. I took a breath and let the moment settle. I didn't start a competitor, I said softly. I started a replacement. Then I hung up. 2 hours after I ended that call, I got a message from Chase. Just a single line. Dad's asking if you'll meet. Just talk. I stared at the screen. Talk. They'd humiliated me, ripped my future from under me like it meant nothing, and now that their empire was falling, now they wanted to talk? I didn't reply. Instead, I sent my lawyer the final acquisition paperwork. We'd been quietly buying up every vendor Winslow relied on one by one. And with every deal closed, their power slipped through their fingers like sand in a storm. That night, I got a knock at Eli's apartment door. I opened it to find Camila, my cousin, and the only one who hadn't laughed that day. She looked exhausted, like she hadn't slept. Her mascara was smudged. She wasn't in designer anything, just a hoodie and jeans. Liv, she whispered. You really did it. I didn't answer. She swallowed hard. They're panicking. Uncle Roy's threatening to sue Dad. The board's in chaos. They lost the Evermark contract yesterday, and because Evermark is ours now, I said flatly. She blinked. What? They signed with Novastride yesterday. Exclusive. 5-year deal. Camila slowly lowered herself onto the couch like her legs gave out. Why didn't you tell me? She whispered. Would you have believed me? She didn't answer that, but I saw it in her face. No. She wouldn't have. The next day, I got a call from Margot Bennett, one of the board's senior advisors. Unlike the family, Margot had always been practical. Olivia, I'm going to level with you. Kenneth's pride is killing this company. He's refusing to acknowledge the severity of this collapse, and now we're on the brink of defaulting on the October loans. That's not my problem, I said. It could be your opportunity. I raised an eyebrow. Buy us out, she said. Quietly. Take controlling shares. The rest of the board will back you. The employees don't deserve to be collateral damage in your father's war against reality. I paused. Because as much as I wanted revenge, Margot was right. There were hundreds of people in that company. People I'd worked alongside. Some of them still sent me holiday cards. Others had been kind to me when no one else was. They didn't deserve to fall just because Kenneth Winslow couldn't see past his own ego. 2 days later, Novastride Holdings became the majority shareholder in Winslow Industries. The deal was done overnight, quiet, surgical. And at 8:57 a.m. on Monday, I walked into the building I was thrown out of just 11 days ago. But this time, I wasn't alone. Eli walked on my right, in a crisp navy suit. Priya was on my left, holding a presentation binder. Deshawn met us at the elevator, already wired in via earpiece. As we stepped into the boardroom, every head turned. Chase's jaw dropped. Uncle Roy fumbled his coffee. Camila stared at me like she wasn't sure I was real. And then my father walked in. He froze when he saw me in his seat. What is this? He barked. I didn't stand. I looked him square in the eye and handed him a folder. You'll find all the legal details inside, I said. As of this morning, Novastride Holdings holds 58% of the company. His hand trembled slightly. You bought us? No, I said. I rescued the parts worth saving. And then I stood. Effective immediately, Kenneth Winslow, you're relieved of all executive duties. The silence in that room was so loud it hurt. Chase stood. You can't do this. I turned to him. You laughed in my face when Dad fired me. You said I couldn't handle pressure. So no, I can do this. You'll regret this, my father said, voice low, eyes blazing. I walked past him, slowly, with deliberate grace. Then I leaned in. You already do. That evening, after the press release hit the wire, I stood on the roof of the Novastride building. Eli joined me. You good? He asked. I didn't answer for a long moment. The wind rushed against my face. Below, the city pulsed like a living thing. Then I turned to him and said, "We're just getting started." 2 days after I took control, the silence from my family was louder than ever. No texts, no calls, no apologies. But I didn't need them. I was in back-to-back meetings, cleaning up the mess they left behind. The company's books were a disaster. Supplier contracts were outdated. Morale was near zero. Still, I stayed calm, professional, determined. I wasn't here to be their savior. I was here to rebuild something real, with or without them. Camila came to my office on the 3rd day, quietly slipping in without knocking. "They're talking about you," she said, sitting across from me. "Dad says you're being heartless, that you came back just to humiliate him." I looked up from my laptop. "He's not wrong." She gave me a tired half-smile. "Good. They need to feel it." Then her voice softened. "But part of me misses how things used to be. Before all the power plays. Before the money made everyone cold." I looked at her, really looked. "I miss that too," I said quietly. "But that version of our family didn't survive the greed." Later that afternoon, I walked into the executive lounge. Chase was there alone, suit jacket off, tie loosened, drink in hand. He looked up as I passed. "Must feel good," he said. I paused. "Which part?" "Taking everything from us." I didn't blink. "You gave it away. I just picked it up after you dropped it." He laughed bitterly. "You were always good at pretending to be the underdog." "No," I said, stepping closer. "You were always good at pretending I didn't matter. You're just mad that I finally stopped pretending with you." The next morning, the press picked up the full story. Fired daughter now CEO after takeover. Olivia Winslow restructures family empire. The narrative had shifted, and so had the power. I went into our operations meeting and saw something different in the team's eyes. Respect, hope, maybe even pride. I didn't need my father's approval anymore. I had something better, results. And by the end of the week, Nova Stride Winslow Industries was already showing signs of life. But just as things began to stabilize, a letter arrived. From my father. Just one line written in his familiar, sharp handwriting. "What are you without the Winslow name?" I smiled to myself. I had my answer ready. Everything. The letter sat on my desk all day. I didn't shred it. Didn't frame it either. I just let it sit there, like a ghost from the past, quiet, powerless, and already fading. Because by now, the world didn't see me as Kenneth Winslow's daughter. They saw me as Olivia Winslow, the woman who turned a broken empire into something breathing again. The next week, our logistics dashboard went live, Priya's design. It cut delivery time by 17% in 48 hours. Our numbers climbed. Investors who once avoided us were now calling me directly. And still not a word from my father. Not a single sorry. Until I got the invitation. It came by courier. A formal dinner. At the old Winslow estate. He was hosting. For family only. "Are you going to go?" Eli asked, watching me reread it. I thought for a moment. "I think I will." "Why?" he asked. "Closure." I looked at him, then at the skyline outside the window. "No," I said. To remind them that I didn't need their table. I built my own. That night, I wore a navy blue suit, sharp, powerful, mine. When I walked into the mansion, everyone looked up. Chase froze mid-drink. Uncle Roy turned pale. Camila smiled softly from the far end of the table. And then my father stood. There was no hug, no welcome, just a nod, and one empty chair, at the head of the table. He gestured toward it. "It's yours now." I stepped forward and didn't sit. "I didn't come for that seat," I said calmly. "I came to let you know publicly that I won't be tied to the old Winslow name. We're rebranding." Shock rippled across the room. I looked at each of them. "The Winslow name will be removed from all our holdings by end of quarter." My father's jaw tightened. "You'd erase everything we built." "No," I said. "Just everything you poisoned." And with that, I turned and walked away. 3 weeks after the dinner, the world changed. For them. And for me. Every billboard, every press release, every official document now bore one name only. Novastride. No hyphens. No Winslow. No legacy handcuffs. Just the company I rebuilt from ashes, with a team that believed in me before anyone else did. The response was electric. Stock prices surged. New partnerships rolled in. Employees who once whispered in elevators now greeted me with pride. And for the first time, I felt free. Not just from my family's shadow, but from the fear I'd carried for years. The fear that I wasn't enough on my own. Then, on a Tuesday morning, I got a voicemail from Camila. "Hey Liv, Dad, he's selling his house. Says he doesn't need the space anymore. And he asked about you. He didn't say it, but I think he regrets everything." I stared at the message for a long while, but I didn't call back. I wasn't angry. I wasn't bitter. I was just done waiting for a sorry. I'd already moved forward. That afternoon, I sat with Eli, Priya, and Deshawn in the new Novastride campus. Glass walls, bright light, the hum of a future we created. We were planning expansion, and I suddenly realized I wasn't chasing revenge anymore. I was leading something real, something that mattered. Later that night, I went for a walk alone near the waterfront. I watched the city lights blink in the distance, and I thought about everything. The boardroom humiliation, the laughter, the silence, the betrayal, and now the power shift. And I whispered to the wind, like a promise to my younger self. They said I was a failure, but the only thing I failed at was staying small. Back at the office the next morning, my assistant brought in a large envelope. "From your father," she said quietly. I hesitated, then opened it. Inside was a single photo. Me, age 11, standing next to my dad in a hard hat, grinning, holding a clipboard too big for my arms. Behind it, a note written in careful, block letters. "You always had it in you. I was just too blind to see it. I'm sorry, Dad." I closed my eyes and let the moment sink in. I didn't cry, but I felt the weight in my chest shift, just enough. Maybe that apology came too late to fix the past. But it still meant something. Months passed. Novastride became one of the top rising companies in the country. I started a scholarship fund for women in business, named after my mother, the one person who always believed in me, even when she couldn't change the outcome. Camila eventually left the family business and joined my team. And my father? He quietly retired. Sometimes I hear he watches my interviews. Never says a word, but I know he's listening. One night, I gave a keynote speech at a leadership summit in New York. Hundreds of people in the audience, all waiting for me to speak. I stood at the podium and looked out at the crowd, the spotlight warm on my face. Then I smiled and said, "A long time ago, someone told me I was just a failure. And for a while, I believed them. But failure isn't the end. Sometimes it's the door. The one you walk through to build a life no one saw coming." And they stood. Every single one of them. As I walked off stage, a reporter asked, "What's the legacy you want to leave behind?" I thought for a second, then answered, "That your worth doesn't come from a last name. It comes from what you do when no one claps for you. It comes from who you become when they laugh."